Oh, there we go. Okay.
Hey, all right.
Wait, Uh,
We're in.
okay. No, you can't hear me.
I can hear you. Uh-huh.
You can't hear me. Okay, I'm
I,
gonna plug in my microphone because it's supposed to work with my microphone.
okay.
I'm hoping it'll be better.
It's not bad. It's fine.
Hear me now?
Yeah.
You can't hear me.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can hear me,
Uh-huh.
but I can't hear you now.
Oh, you can't?
Okay.
Oh,
Let me
oh, oh.
try. Let me. I have a different one that should work. I don't know why. Okay. I guess that one was just audio, but not headphones. So this is both. So hopefully this will
Hello,
work.
hello, hello. Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine.
Okay, I'm gonna use different microphone thing. See if this will help. All right, can you hear me?
Keep
Can
talking.
you say? I can hear you.
You can hear me
Say
now?
something again?
Yeah. Hello?
All right, cool.
Could you hear me before?
Huh?
Could you hear me the whole time or just now that you put your headphones in?
Now that I just put the headphones in, I think. Well, no,
Hmm.
I'm not sure. No, I guess I was hearing you. No, there were points at some point at which I wasn't hearing, but you. But oh, I think what was when I was using just a mic, and I couldn't hear you when I was just using the mic. That's what it was.
Okay.
And
But
I
you
could
can
hear you
now?
when I took the headphones out of my computer, but my computer has really bad speakers and sound systems. So having something, this I think should make the sound quality better.
Okay.
I hope.
I mean, seems okay so far.
Okay, good. All right. Yeah, I'm set up. So do you want
Okay.
to run this? Do you know what this experiment is? Have I
I
told you?
don't, yeah, why don't we run it?
Okay. I know this works in person, and I just don't know whether it would work online, and I'm kind of doubtful, but if it does, it's kind of a really cool demo, okay?
Okay.
So I'm using, these are kind of uh, like, sort of, I don't know what you call it, sort of like, it detects energy.
They're
But
called
basically,
they're wire hangers, right?
yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I'm gonna ask you, this is an experiment, have you ever done this before? Do you know what I'm doing?
I have a clue, but I'm not really sure. No.
Okay,
I'm
we'll
not
see if
told.
this works.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna ask you, first of all, think of something that really depletes you, that just makes you feel awful.
Hmm. Uh
You don't have to say what it is, just think of it.
I'm I'm trying to pick something.
Okay.
um yeah, okay.
All right.
Got it.
Okay. You there?
Yeah.
Okay. So nothing happened to the coat hangers. Now think of something that makes you feel, that just fills you with joy. Like get as happy as you could possibly get.
Okay.
Oh my God. It is working online. Look at this.
So the hangers opened up.
Yeah. Look at this.
Mm-hmm.
Can
So
you
what is
see it very well? Look
I
at
can
how
see the
open
hangers.
they are.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. It worked online. How freaking awesome.
It, I, it's energy it's what do you think why do you think that is?
It's like it's a sort of like measuring your energy field.
Yeah.
So what's interesting about it is that like if I can't film this right now, but if I were, because I can't step back any farther, and I wanted to make sure I had a decent background, but if I had stepped all the way across the room,
Mm-hmm.
uh, we could measure the size of your energy field this
Yeah.
way, right? And as yeah, and so at some point, the wire hangers, even if you stayed happy, the wire hangers would start to come back together, and that would be the sort of edge of your energy field.
I read I heard about a study that was done where they could show that the energy field was 8 feet and 8 feet long, or 8 feet wide, or 8 feet out from your body. And the energy, and they said, okay, so how did you get, after the study was done, or after they were talking about it, they said, how did you decide that 8 feet was the limit? And they said, well, that was the farthest that our instruments could measure.
Oh, so then it's really not the.
It's not 8 feet at all. It's just that's
Yeah.
the limit of how far they could measure.
Right.
Yeah.
It's the instruments.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Well, the fun thing is, and I'm expressing a little concern. I don't know if you noticed this, but at least from my end, when you were talking, the audio got really slow and your video slowed down for a bit.
It said unstable connection a second ago, and I don't know how to fix that besides maybe going in the other room where I'm right next to the router, but then I don't have as good a light, and I don't have,
yeah,
the light isn't as good, and the background isn't as good. So.
Oh, it happened again.
Oh.
Hold on a second.
You turned and your picture and you broke consistency.
Sorry, I can't hear you. Hold on. My earphones came out and I couldn't hear you. What'd you say?
When you said it happened again, your picture froze and jumped.
Oh dear.
So I wonder, are you like really close to your router?
I am. My
like
router's right there.
Okay. I'm like 20 feet away from mine, which is like, I feel like that shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah. And I made sure that when I connected with you that I should have really good strong signal here because I actually have a Wi-Fi extender to our router, and that's what I have right here.
Yeah. That's serious business.
Yeah, because it didn't go out to my gazebo where my office is, so I had to get an extender. And also I shut down any programs that I'm not using.
That gives me pause to think. I wonder if I should force quit all the other programs that aren't running.
Yeah, so I'm running, I guess I don't think I can, I'm worried if I close I wonder if I close Firefox, whether I would lose you.
No, I mean, well, is Zoom, for me, Zoom is its own program.
Okay, so I'll close Firefox and just hope that I won't lose you in that. But it does, yeah, cancel the, okay, we'll try it. Okay, I still have you.
Haha.
The only other thing I have up is I have a page on proof it's a science behind energy psychology quick facts.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah, so it's about summary of research done in the field.
I don't think that those things should if it interrupts, then we just pick back up and keep going. Okay. No big deal. Okay. No big deal.
All right.
I mean, so there's a cat.
Yeah, that's tuk tuk.
All right. Well, why don't I do something crazy with my hands to know this is the moment to cut.
Okay.
Dr. Tina Huang, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast this afternoon.
Thank you, Joshua. I'm so happy to be here.
Great. Well, so you run Inner Joy, Lifelong Inner Joy, and it's about how to deal with your brain as you use it to actualize yourself in your life. And Survivors to Thrivers is a lot about how do we get from those places of stuckness to places of thriving and freedom and being in control of our lives. And part of that is going to have to be about how do we use our brains effectively and how do we keep our brains healthy over time. And you have some experience in that and a big degree about it and some methods. And I just wanted to pick your brain and talk to you about that for some time. Does that sound okay?
Sounds great. I'm looking forward to it.
Cool.
And
Uh,
can I just
mhm,
emphasize one thing?
mhm,
That is, if we want a happy and healthy life, we actually have to realize that our brain is everything, because
mhm.
in terms of being able to determine that, because without a healthy brain, we can't have a healthy mindset. If we're constantly thinking about our health, and our brain is intimately connected with every aspect of our health, then we can't be focused on the things that we really want to manifest in life. Any negative thoughts, any pain or struggling is an indication that there's inflammation or something going wrong in our brain, maybe lack of oxygen. So our brain is so important. If we want the ultimate life, we have to be mindful of the most important thing. It's sort of the leader of the pack right up here. This is what dominates everything from down below, and that's our entire life. So a healthy brain is the ultimate tool or mechanism to get to what you want in life.
All right, cool. Good to know. Uh, so that makes me think about, I mean, I got a lot of questions from what you just said in and of itself, but managing change as you're courting whatever it is that you're trying to create in life, and your brain has to react and adapt to the environment that it's in. What can you tell me about managing change? I got that off your
Mm.
website.
Yeah, managing change is it is actually one of the key components we need to stay the course, right? So being resilient is another way of putting it, right? And
Hmm.
we know that in our life we're always going to have ups and downs, right? And I know that through my own history, and I'll just give you a little bit of background about my history, but I grew up with some pretty toxic parents that were always sabotaging my progress and so forth. And everybody else would look at me and go, your parents would never do things like that. And I would say, well, that's my reality. And what happened was I realized they were borderline narcissists, which if you know anything about those personality types or personality disorders, you know that they actually would do the kind of behaviors that they demonstrated. And because of all that negative projection
Uh-oh.
to me, my response was,
Dr. Tina, let me interrupt you. It just got unstable and is
okay.
that what you just said? Can you say that phrase again?
Yeah,
Sorry.
anytime that anything bad happened to me, my
Hmm.
response would go into just like this negative spiral of like, oh, well, that always happens to me. Nothing ever good happens to me. I'm
Hmm.
doomed. The universe is never on my side.
Hmm.
You name the negative thought pattern, I had it, right?
Sure.
And if you have a tendency for, if you've had a lot of abuse in your life, chances are more likely you're going to go down that spiral, right? If you've had a lot of unluck, or lack of luck. But being in alignment with healthy thought patterns of, for example, if something bad happens and your thought pattern is now, well, that kind of sucked, but that's okay. What is good about this, right? Turning your brain around to go, what can I learn from this experience and what is good about this can
Hmm.
really help you stay that course, right? And it's so important to have that resiliency and that grit to keep moving forward. Otherwise, for example, if you, I used to, when I remember when I was applying to jobs, I would get so discouraged if I didn't get a response from like, 3 or 4 people. And I've heard of other people who like applied to 1,000 jobs and still kept going, right? So,
Right.
um, yeah, that resiliency, that ability to keep going matters. And mindset, it's all about mindset and
Hmm.
how you frame what's happening to you.
What, how do we stay in control of how we frame it?
Hmm. That's a great question. One tip I have is, again, asking yourself the question, that I just asked, which is like, what good can I see from this? How can I make changes, right? And not letting yourself get into that downward spiral loop.
Hmm.
If you have a tendency to get into that downward spiral loop, then work with a practitioner to start resolving some of that. I help clients release those negative belief systems. And
Hmm.
we get accumulative negative belief systems that happen through our experience, but also if we've got a lot of inherited negative trauma, then that's going to contribute to that as well.
Hmm.
A great example of this is when you look at I'm just going to say the African American population.
Sure.
If you look at African Americans that are from the United States, especially in the South, if you've ever lived in the South or been in the South, I noticed that I'm treated very differently by them than, say, African Americans in the West or the Northeast, because they show up very differently. Yeah, the ones in the West, especially, are they're doing so much better in life, you know. And I'm stereotyping. I realize that, but they're also Africans from Africa who are doing really well, right? And that's they have different personality types, and the reason isn't because one person is better than the other. It's because of that inherited trauma that got passed down through the generations and led them to be more predisposed. The African Americans from America who live in the South, they're more predisposed to negative thinking and distrust of, say, Asians or white people because of their epigenetic trauma. It's not their fault. They just happen to, you know, be on that side of the fence, and it's really unfortunate. But it's due to epigenetic trauma. So anytime we have I know you have a Jewish background, right? And so, you know, you've got in your background, there's, and I don't know about you personally, but a lot of Jewish people have like the Holocaust trauma in their background, right?
Yeah.
And so there may be a lot more fear and anxiety due to that. And I've had a client that I helped release that fear of getting chased down and killed, which had nothing to do with her own experience, but everything to do with the Holocaust that came from her past.
Right. And the pogroms from the previous 100 years or 150 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. My family tree gets really obscure after 100 years ago. So pretty lost after about 100 years ago. And so like looking into the epigenetic trauma is relevant to lots of different subcultures of the United States, of the American culture. And that melting pot idea has epigenetic trauma of lots of different strains. And you talk about, you know, your website talks about the emotion code and the body code and a little bit about EFT. Can you talk to me a little bit about the methodology of those practices and how to clear some of that? Or how you, like, give us at least a little bit of a teaser about how you might go about working with that energy and the kinds of people that come and see you and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, the main method I use is called the body code.
Okay.
And the emotion code is a subset of the body code. And what I do with that is that I actually ask questions of the subconscious mind. And in doing that, I ask, what are the underlying causes that get in our way of whatever a client presents with? So a client may be having issues with their health. Maybe it's something that doctors haven't been able to resolve, or it could be habit change oriented, you know, can't stop smoking or eating sugar, or even drinking alcohol. It could be wealth oriented, so it could be career oriented procrastination or just lack of motivation or difficulty focus. It could be relationship oriented, so struggling with a particular relationship or relationship patterns. One thing I help people with is ending the cycle of toxic relationships in their lives, because that's my story. And then it could be about happiness, so depression or you know, anxiety or any mental illness that may get in our way. So the subconscious knows what the underlying causes are of whatever these issues are. And the reason why it knows is because it's always paying attention. We're busy doing other things, but it's always paying attention to what's good and bad for us. So it's picking up all this valuable information and it knows more about you personally than your doctor does. So it's super powerful. And the body code allows me to, it gives me sort of a map to look at 6 different major underlying imbalances or categories of imbalances. So we look at the emotional realm, and those can be emotions and belief systems and post-hypnotic suggestions and courting and sabotage and addictive thought patterns and much more. And I spent a lot of time working on that stuff because there's not really effective techniques for releasing that stuff outside of what I do. And that contributes our stress response, which is, that's what it is. It's everything, all that contributes to our stress response, basically seems to carry across everything that I work on. So I spend a lot of time working on that. But if somebody has a toxin in their system, and we probably all do because we live in America, or pathogens or nutritional imbalances, most of us have nutrient deficiencies. In fact, I think it was like 95% of the population had at least one nutrient deficiency as defined by the RDA.
Sure. That makes a lot of
Then,
sense. Yeah.
yeah, then all of those things can contribute. And so what I do is I ask questions of the subconscious, what's contributing, and then I release them. And I release it using energy medicine, or if somebody has a nutrient imbalance, they need more of a certain vitamin, I will point them to the vitamin or a food that they'll need. If they need if they have pathogens in their system or toxins, then we help them detox and so forth. So that's kind of just the overview. We also get rid of inherited effects, which is really crazy, but it's a key to why this is so powerful.
I mean, it sounds like there's a lot there to dig through. How many sessions does it take to usually, how many sessions does it usually take for you to get a handle on whatever's going on for people? And because everybody's different, everybody's going to have their own thing.
Yeah.
And how many sessions does it take to get under somebody's conscious facade that protects them from whatever it is that you could kind of help them heal? And then how many sessions does it take? Like, cause I'm looking at this going like, okay, so I had a brain injury and I had a really hard time acquiring life as a young adult, and establishing myself as an adult and having a job and making my own money and taking care of my priorities and managing my life. And as I'm starting to figure out where my path goes, or continuing to figure out where my path goes, I'm thinking, okay, so I want to do this thing. I want to do this thing. I want to go see this therapist. I'm looking at all this stuff online, and I'm going like, this costs $140 an hour. This costs $250 a session. Like, I barely make minimum wage. Like, who pays for this? And insurance only covers what Western medicine says is medicine, which is only about 2% of what is really what should be in healthcare. And so if I'm looking at like, how do I go see Dr. Tina Huang, PhD? How do I think about how much money this is going to cost me?
That's a great question. And it really is, it's totally dependent on the individual. I cannot, unfortunately, give that sort of global answer. What I can say is that, so the more trauma somebody's had in their past, the longer things are going to take, right? So our rate of progress sort of goes like this. And so if somebody is doing really well in the world, the number of things that they need to do to fix the problem, it's not going to last very long, or it's not going to take very long, is what I'm trying to say. But somebody with a lot of trauma, it's going to take longer to have an overall shift in happiness or functionality, right? But that being said, it's in terms of how much time it gets straight to the subconscious, it really is less than a minute. I mean, it's really quick, right? So, for example,
the subconscious is always there. Like you said before, the subconscious is always
we can do it right now. That's how quick it is, right?
All right.
And so, and we can later, but let me just finish what I was going to say. But
please.
What was I going to say? Oh, so the clients normally come to me with a variety of different issues, and we write them all down. One second.
It says, all right, go ahead again.
Okay. So clients come to me with a variety of different issues, and we'll write them all down. And sometimes I say, is there one thing particular you feel like you need to work on first? And they may say yes, but other times they say, I'm not sure. Let's ask the subconscious. And so the subconscious guides me through this whole thing, because the subconscious knows best. It knows better than I do. I had to get my ego out of the way at the beginning. So, but it helps me determine where to start. And so say a client is struggling with loving themselves, right? And maybe that's one thing on the list, but there's also trauma from childhood, right? So we may have to address the childhood trauma first before we address the loving yourself, and so forth. And we'll just go down the list of things. And so for each one of these things, it could take, sometimes it can take just like 20 minutes of work to completely clear a problem, right? Or even less, depending on what's contributing to it. But if it's a bigger issue like depression, that could take months, right? So because what happens is, if we think about an issue, it's like kind of like a table, and there's all these different legs that support the table of what the issue is, right? And some people only have one leg that supports it, right? So for example, I had a client with depression, and the answer to it was that she needed more selenium in her diet. So that was quick. That was all it was, right? So her prescription was take 2 Brazil nuts and call me in the morning, right? So that was it, right? But she was lucky. But most clients, I've had other clients who've had lifelong trauma, right? And so we have to address all those different layers of trauma, and then the negative thinking that it accumulates because of that trauma, and so forth. And then sometimes there's just a lot of other complications that come as a result of lifelong trauma. So you've got a lot of different legs to address before that whole thing falls, right? So it really depends on the client and what they're dealing with. And the best way to know is to talk to me, because I can address people's individual situations and give them a better idea of how many sessions they might need.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
I was like hoping you would say something like, well, each client could take like 3 sessions, or they could take 300 sessions. It kind of depends on how long it takes them to allow that table to fall and then rebuild it as something that they want it to be. Although it's obviously not your answer. That was just kind of what I was like thinking.
Yeah, it is. I mean,
because everybody's different.
A variation, but it depends on their background and their
Sure.
inherited background too. So
sure.
Yeah.
Cool. I saw on your website also some aging, trauma and aging, and it mentions the condition that happens when you get older.
Alzheimer's?
Sometimes, yeah, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, those conditions. What can you tell me about how your work might help with those types of more, I guess those conditions seem a little different to me, because they're not as much about thinking processes. They're more about biology, right?
Yeah, I mean, yes, you can't completely separate those two, but because definitely our emotional state affects our biology.
Sure.
But that being said, yes, I am actually, one of the things I do is I give talks on how to keep your brain young at any age, and new hope for Alzheimer's. And I don't know if you mentioned this. When I first encountered this,
Dr. Tina, so
yeah.
The internet skipped out again. It's kind of
okay.
Yes, but you said when you first started to get into it, you said it's one of the talks that you give, and then it disappeared.
Okay, let's try that again.
Thanks.
So one of the talks that I give a couple of talks on how to keep your brain young at any age. And new hope for Alzheimer's. And
there we go.
How to keep your brain young at any age is basically how to keep your brain young at any age. So it's about how to keep your brain healthy. And the new hope for Alzheimer's is actually about Alzheimer's reversal. And and my background's in neuroscience and epidemiology, and in both fields, I was looking at it was doing research in Alzheimer's disease, trying to identify the underlying causes. And I got really excited about the method that I use called the body code, because all of a sudden I could go straight to the person and identify those underlying causes right away. In research, it takes decades, especially when it comes to Alzheimer's disease. In fact, it's almost impossible to do, especially if you're interested in early life, which I am. So the early life risk factors that are associated with late life dementia. So with this method, that with the body code, I'm able to get straight to, oh yeah, it happened in the womb. I'll just let you know that, and that's it.
Wow.
Yeah. So, so I give these talks, and then I also talk about my story of being able to reverse probable Alzheimer's from a client. And I have to say, it was one of my favorite, probably my favorite turnaround story ever. But yeah, this method is so powerful that yes, it can reverse Alzheimer's disease. And I believe that, you know, unfortunately, that population is more resistant to doing these kinds of alternative practices. But I'm writing a book and hoping that when the baby boomers get older, they're going to be more open to it. I think they will be,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll have a lot more stories to share. So,
All right. Well, we're creeping up on a half an hour. Do you want to do that experiment that we were talking about?
sure,
All
yeah.
right. All right. I don't know what you're thinking, but I'll jump
Well,
in. Let's try it.
this whole experiment had to do with a demonstration of energy. Okay.
Okay. Uh-huh.
A lot of people, you know, I do energy medicine, and a lot of people might, I don't know, have you ever talked about energy medicine on your show yet?
I think this is fundamentally about energy medicine, in a
Yeah,
large way. I think it's about, so Western medicine and structural medicine is kind of what we have, but then past that, what's going to be around in 150 years, everything's energy. I mean, ultimately everything that I'm doing, I guess, is about how it incorporates energy medicine.
right, right,
So,
right. Yeah. Yeah, and I think it, you know, what I love about it, I mean, there's so much more research coming out about
mhm,
energy medicine. Where there are some fantastic academic researchers, Bruce Lipton and Dawson Church and David
mhm,
Feinstein, who are
mhm,
really rallying the troops to try to get more research out there in energy medicine. And there's meta-analyses and there's review articles,
mhm,
and there's a great summary sheet on their website that shows that there's like 50, actually over 100 studies now showing the effectiveness of energy medicine. And 98 out of 100 studies have shown it's effective.
wow,
I'm
yeah.
surprised that there are two that showed it.
Dr. Tina.
Maybe it's the methods.
Uh,
I'm not sure what happened there.
it stopped again.
Okay. But
You
the
mentioned the two doctors, and then it went away. I'm
okay.
sorry this is happening. Keep going. I'm with you.
So yeah, there's actually over 100 studies that
Hmm.
show the effectiveness of energy medicine.
Hmm.
And there's a great summary on the energy psychology website about that. But
Okay.
it's really exciting to see. And they also mention in that little summary sheet that they say that there are like 400 methods for psychotherapy, and none of them have been proven yet. And yet we've got, and for energy psychology, there's over 100 studies, and they're still
Yeah.
not getting approved of by Western medicine. And
Yeah. I mean, we
it's
could talk about the
crazy.
money structures
Yeah.
and I mean, it. There's enough on the internet, and that's a 30-hour, 15-part podcast. That's
Right.
a whole other conversation. That's not in scope for this conversation at all. But
Right.
energy
So
medicine does work. I'm with you on that. And
yeah, it does. And
this is a
and
lot
the
about how to,
demo
go ahead.
the demo I had was to demonstrate the power of energy, right?
Okay.
So and how energy does transmute across. And we just found out, we didn't know if this is work
Yeah.
online, but
Yeah. We did a little experiment before we
we
started
did, because we didn't know if it was going to work online.
recording. All
So
right.
and you can do this at home. This is pretty cool. So what I have is two wire coat hangers, right?
Mhm. Okay.
And you can see they're kind of, I'm holding onto them very loosely, right?
Okay.
I'm not doing much here. And
Uh-huh.
they're kind of swaying back and forth a little bit. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask Joshua to
Okay.
think of something that really depletes him. Okay.
Okay.
So think of something that just makes you really sad. Okay. Actually, look at what's happened to the coat hangers.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
actually like
They're touching.
falling in.
Uh-huh.
And I'm not doing a thing. I'm not doing a thing with these coat hangers, but they
Yeah.
are falling inwards.
I got a much clearer picture. So when we did that experiment in the beginning, I didn't really have a good image on what made me not feel good.
Yeah.
And I got a much clearer image of it this time. And I noticed that the hangers didn't really do much in the test beforehand, and they totally mirror how much clearer I got about the thing that makes me not feel good.
Wow. Yeah. I can tell you're really in there. right now.
Yeah, that doesn't.
Okay. I
Okay.
need to pull you out though.
Yeah,
Okay. Can
pull
we
me
pull
out.
you out?
No,
And I'm going to
yes.
ask you
Uh-huh.
to think of something that fills you with just incredible joy, that just fills you up like you would not believe. Makes you so happy.
Okay.
Oh, wow. Check out what's happening to the coat hangers.
They opened right up.
That's huge. I love this experiment.
Yeah. Is
Yeah.
it, do you find that it works for everybody?
Okay. It's worked for everybody I've tried it with. I haven't
Uh-huh.
done it that many times, but I did it with my cat. I was trying to demonstrate this to some people, my neighbors who came to visit one day, and
Uh-huh.
it's really cool to do this like when you have a large room,
Hmm.
because you can measure people's energy field. So you can stand back
Ooh.
where the edge of it is, and then where the coat hangers start to come together. And that when it starts to come together, if somebody is still happy, then that's kind of the edge of the energy field. And sometimes you don't have a room that's big enough, But
Right.
I decided while my neighbors were watching, my cat was all the way across the room. It was probably about 20, maybe 15 feet long room, maybe
Hmm.
15 to 20 feet long room. And
Hmm.
she was sitting there purring at me. This is my cat, by the way. That's Tuk Tuk. She's
Hey,
sleeping.
Tuk Tuk.
But
Aw.
she was sitting there just purring at me, right? And the coat hangers were huge. I was like, oh my goodness, this is so exciting,
Yeah.
right? And then she got a scratch, and the coat hangers went whoop. I was like, oh my God, it's something I want to capture on film so badly, but I haven't had the the resources to do that. But yeah, so it works with cats. I know that, and it does work with every human I've tried it with.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Well, how do people find you? I
Well,
think
my website is lifelongenerjoy.com. That's
all
ENERJOY.com.
right.
And
Cool.
yeah, I
Well,
help people with a variety of issues in health, wealth, relationships, and happiness. And two specialties that I'm working on right now are cognitive issues. Yes, cognitive, whether it's Alzheimer's disease, ADHD, or learning disabilities of all sorts.
mhm.
And then also dealing with toxic relationships. People who've had a lot of narcissism or borderline personality in their family and need to really come out of that relationship experience and recover. I've had some amazing stories, recovery stories, of even the narcissist and borderline person changing as a result of the work they do. It's phenomenal. So
That's amazing. Yeah.
yeah, we want to get people from surviving to thriving, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, do you have any last thoughts? Do you have any inspirational ideas to follow that up with before we sign off?
Hmm. You know, I would say for 2019,
Hmm.
uh, you know, it's really great to just like use the new year or use a new month or a new week to start trying to shift your focus to make something better in your life. And your life will always improve if you have grit and resilience, right? So no matter what, like if I think the most important thing to do is to keep in mind that being healthy that having that grit and resilience is really important to staying healthy. And if you're not, and to manifesting what you want in life, right? And if you're not there yet, then definitely consider energy medicine. Consider seeing somebody like me. Why make change hard? Because it doesn't have to be. It can be really easy, right?
Mm,
And working with the subconscious does that. So give yourself the gift of getting what you want in your life, and make change
mm.
easy. And if anybody wants, I offer top 10 tips on for happy and healthy brain on my website, as well as my newsletters, Hidden Barriers to Happiness. I blog regularly, so check that out.
Dr. Tina, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. And I look forward to being in touch.
Thank you so much, Joshua. It was a blast.
Cheers.
Take care.